Hello listeners, this is Issues Playground, aka RBC Bard, and I have even more thoughts about Lovecraft Country and fandom. I'm clearly in my feelings about this, clearly in my feelings about a lot of stuff, so and I'm using this format to get those feelings out, because trying to type out, like I said, trying to type out an essay is a little much to ask of me right now. And apparently my respectable black woman potion is wearing off and the real me is coming out. So, so I might say some things that might, sound a little astringent to your ears. I'm going to open up this particular recording with, which I will call, you say Ruby deserved better, but I don't believe you. I'm going to open up with this bit that I remember about an interview that Viola Davis had with Tavis Smiley right around the time when The Help came out. And at the time, Tavis Smiley was like, well, do you have to play a maid? It's the thing. It's like, yeah, a black maid, does she have to be a maid? And I was smart enough to transcribe Viola Davis's response, and I'm going to say it in full here because it's so pertinent and it's so relevant. And she said, that very mindset that you have, that a lot of African Americans have, is absolutely destroying the black artist. The black artist cannot live in a revisionist place. The black artist can only tell the truth about humanity. And humanity is messy. People are messy. Caucasian actors know that. They understand that. They understand that when you bring a human being to life, what you want as an artist is to show all the flaws as well as the beauty. We as African American artists are more concerned with image and message and not execution. Which is why every time you see our images, they've been watered down to a point where they are not realistic at all. It's like all our humanity has been washed out. We as artists cannot be politicians. We as artists can only be truth tellers. It's what August Wilson did at his best. He told stories about illiterates, thugs, ex-slaves, and Arthur Miller did the same thing. And Arthur Miller is elevated as being the greatest writer in American dramatic theater history. I mean, that's a lot to take in, but this summarizes my beef with media analysis and fandom discourse today. They approach all stories as if they're meant to be fables for children and not as explorations of complex, messy humanity. They want to know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what are we supposed to think, what are we supposed to feel? And part of me wonders that the reason for that is because so many fandoms center around media oriented toward children and adolescents. So they don't know what to do when the story is not, overtly educational or moralistic. But that's another recording for another time. That being said, I say this over and over and over and over again. Lovecraft Country is a show for adults, about adults, in adult situations. And it's not about the sex and violence. Never mind that. It's about all the blood and guts and the fucking... Don't worry about that. It's about the sensibility you need to bring to it to understand it. It's a show about messy, complex people. And their messy, complex reality. And their messy, complex relationships. It's not, at its best, it's not heroes and villains. It's not good and evil, right and wrong. It speaks to the nuances of human lives and human relationships. Okay? And the thing is, we don't get this with black people. We don't get this with, in genre shows First of all, we don't hardly get genre shows with a majority black cast at all. And we also rarely get, you know, shows with a majority black cast that are like, that have this, that are nuanced like this. White folks get it all the time. White folks got the Sopranos, they got their Sopranos, they got their Breaking Bad, they got their Game of Thrones, they got their Hannibal. Okay, and Lovecraft Country at its best really nails that. And at its worst is when it prioritizes other things. Me as a viewer, I didn't give a fuck about the plot. I mean, whatever. I don't care about the overarching plot. I would have been satisfied with watching these characters go about their lives in a world where magic is real. You know, that's probably why I was pretty nonplussed about plot holes or, you know, the structural issues. It's like I wasn't watching for that. You know, I was most gripped when it was about the characters and their relationships. So you can imagine how jarring it is to embrace a show that offers such nuanced, complex characters and then run into so many people who have, you know, these simplistic, reductive takes on this story and these characters. Which brings me to Ruby. I want to air some dirty laundry about black folks here. If you're not black, this is not meant for you to use as a gotcha when you argue with black folks. This is me talking about things that need to be talked about when discussing characters like this. Because I don't see people like really telling the truth. At least not the truth as I see it, not the truth that I've experienced. Okay. If I can be real for a second, I'm seeing a lot of progressive and woke black folks right now talking about how Ruby deserves better. You know, how she was this great character and so complex, and why did the show do that to her, blah, 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 blah. But I gotta say it, most of y'all are full of shit. I don't believe you give a fuck about Ruby. Because if you did, you wouldn't have waited until now to talk about how Ruby deserved better. If you did, you'd have been listening to the black women in the audience who relate to her, amplifying our voices. If you cared about Ruby, you would have pushed back harder against the vitriol directed at her and the people who identify with her. You'd cut people at the quick for that Negro bedwench shit. Some of that Negro bedwench shit that I saw on Twitter. You'd have called out the colorism, the misogyny, the homophobia, and the fat phobia behind some of the commentary online, especially on Twitter and Tumblr, long before now. And then you'd unpack the expectations placed on women like Ruby to be a mammy or a mule for every goddamn thing. But instead, most of you are using Christina as a convenient fig leaf for shit you don't want to unpack about yourselves. And for all the shit y'all talk about Christina, y'all are just like her. But Christina has the integrity to admit she don't give a fuck. Which brings me to the Ruby and Christina ship. Which, look, if you're dead set against this ship, go ahead and close the tab now. Go ahead and cut this shit off right now. Because save yourself the aggravation. Because you're really not going to like what I have to say next. And I'm going to say it as plainly as I know how because it's been unsaid for far too long. Once again, black people, I'm speaking to my people here. A lot of y'all who run your mouth so much online are more invested in hating white folks than in freeing black people. A lot of y'all got more energy for hating white women than loving black women. lot of y'all care more that black women live lives in a way that you approve of than that she is happy, protected, cared for, and loved. Now, yeah, I ship Ruby and Christina to Kingdom Come, and I will never claim they're wholesome. There's so many ways this thing can go wrong. I mean, I'm an adult. I'm not a child. I get it. But like I said, Lovecraft Country is a show for grown-ups about grown-ups. And one of the things you learn as a grown-up is that human beings are messy. Human beings are messy as fuck. So their relationships are messy as fuck too. And it's rather interesting to see so many people call Ruby Christina all kind of toxic and abusive, yet got jack shit to say about Letty grabbing a baseball bat in case she needed to use it on Tick. And it's mighty suspicious to see so many of my own people judging the fuck out of shippers, especially black women who ship it, for rooting for Ruby and Christina to work out, or at least go out with a bang. And here's my thing: if it was really about what's best for Ruby and what Ruby means to black women like her, you'll be listening to the black women who ship it when we explain why we ship it. You'll be pushing back against people judging black women for shipping it. You ain't gotta ship it yourself. You ain't even gotta like it. But stand up for our right to enjoy and fantasize about a queer, plus-size, dark-skinned black woman getting orgasms and bubble baths. Is that really so fucking hard?